Good evening, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center with this update on flash flooding across the Jacksonville area that's starting to occur. Two flash flood warnings in place. We're simulcasting the coverage on all the different platforms now because things really ramping up, unfortunately, there around Jacksonville. So we want to just go ahead and kind of get in tight here as we're looking toward downtown Jacksonville. You're seeing quite a bit of flooding occurring here based on the Doppler radar indications. You can see some of the rain around downtown has let up just a tad, but as we're looking off toward the west a little bit, you can see some heavier downpours occurring. So that's definitely ramping up concern a little bit. We're going to continue to watch this here carefully as we're looking over the last little bit. You can see over the last hour or so, upward of about 2 inches of rain has fallen there toward Jacksonville. So again, I just want people to be cognizant of what is happening. Just remember to turn around, don't drown. Looking overall, we've seen rain here as we're looking back further to the east, but we also have to be aware that they had a lot of rain up here last night, and now we're combining that with today's rain during rush hour, and that causes some added concern. So we're ramping up our coverage. The two flash flood warnings right now. The one here is for accident that's not really happening here too much at the moment, but we still have to just watch here. Even just a little bit of rain like this can aggravate the situation, but that warning goes to 7:45 for eastern Duval, also getting over toward southeastern Nassau and northern St. John's as well. Again, that's till 7:45. And as we look toward 8:30 or so, we're watching northwestern Duval and southwestern Nassau counties with this heavy rain. And the media reports of a tree on a van after it got struck by lightning, some flooding here starting to endanger some vehicles as well. So that's not what you want to hear as things ramping up, escalating a little bit in the Jacksonville area. So we're starting to do the coverage like this here. We're going to go through at least 6 o'clock here with this and just kind of make this as part of our normal update here since things have escalated a little bit toward Jacksonville, toward Duval County here. I know we normally be on Twitter exclusively here, but we wanted to cover the situation for our Facebook audience as well as some flooding now being reported there in the chat officially along Main Street and Church Street there. So we've been talking about some of the endangerment of vehicles, though, unfortunately, and the conditions have, unfortunately, deteriorated in some spots here as we're looking toward the west side of Jacksonville. The other warning there at 8:30 that does include spots there like Jacksonville, Callahan, Cisco Gardens, Riceville, Ratliff, also the Nassau Village, Ratliff area, Normandy, Riverside, San Marco, and White House Airfield as well. So you see downtown, as you can kind of see, we also had a wind report there. It looks like to about 45 miles an hour or so a little while ago, and flooding there, the icon now on the screen. I'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit closer here as you see the icon there, that flooding there along Main Street and Church Street, as getting a report in from WJX, WFOX Chief Meteorologist Mike Burris of over 3 inches at the station, but the rain rates are dropping there as they're on the southeastern side of town, so they're not getting into things as significantly as they did. So that's some good news for them, but we're going to continue to watch here as we see the accident become more prominent toward the west side and still around downtown here as well as we're looking back. Even a little bit of rain here aggravating that situation, aggravating that flash flooding threat. Just got to be cognizant here of what is happening. Let's go ahead and pop up the camera there in toward the downtown area as we see some significant weather advisory information coming out toward South Georgia. I know watching toward Darty and toward Mitchell there, as well as Baker in Georgia, we're talking about for that potential there of some strong winds. But as we get over right now toward our other computer system, we do want to show you that weather sim camera there, the baseball grounds in Jacksonville. You'll be able to see here the rain falling there. Kind of tells the story. Maybe not as potent. It's prolific of a rain producer as it was a few minutes ago, but still some rain falling there in toward downtown Jacksonville. We'll pop up another radar view, so we'll be able to give you another vantage point here of some of this rain still falling. We'll have to watch to see how things translate here over the next little bit, because that'll be important here as we do look ahead. So we'll just be monitoring that very carefully. But I think we're going to go ahead and switch you over to radar scope right now, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about here with the imagery. With the rainfall there, as we're looking on I-10, you're seeing that very heavy torrential rain falling and a new flash flood warning in play. A lot of lightning. We've already had issues from that there. And toward Jacksonville, lightning issues there as we get out toward the Panhandle, just that side of our area. 2 homes are struck by lightning there as we get just that side of a viewing area. So it's been a pretty busy day. We covered on Twitter exclusively that warning toward parts of that region there. We're talking about, it looks like, up toward that Thomasville area, as there is now an update there on the tree on the minivan. They now can't confirm that it was they cannot confirm that it was a lightning strike that dropped a tree versus wind, so they'll be kind of trying to evaluate that. But a driver injured there from a issue there with a tree falling. Something caused that tree to fall there, or something rather related, it seems, causing that tree to fall there on a vehicle. So we'll continue to watch that there, as you always had that concern during rush hour with this storm. And this wasn't a severe storm. This isn't a severe storm in the traditional sense. It hadn't been, but it's about the flooding threat and some gusty winds just under and below severe limits. So that's something to kind of bear in mind here as well. So we're going to continue to watch this here. We'll be back about 5:45 with more information as we continue to watch on our different platforms. This torrential rain here falling toward Duval, toward Nassau. Things a little bit better in the other flash flood warning, but still getting enough rain to aggravate the situation. I know, as we saw last night, even long after the heavy rain stopped falling, we still had issues there with some of the moderate rain aggravating that flooding situation in those traditionally flood-prone spots. So you just have to be really cognizant of what is going on. You just want to remember to turn around and don't drown. Again, I'll be back here in just a few more minutes with more information as flash flood warnings continue. Parts of Duval, parts of Nassau. One goes there till about 8:30 tonight, the other till about 7:45. We'll be back soon. Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here at about 5:45 on your Tuesday evening. We're continuing to watch the developments here with the flash flooding potential around Jacksonville. The worst here is we're looking more toward the northwest side at this point. Nasty situation there, and we have to be mindful of the situations that could evolve here. That could be pretty dangerous for people. They just need to remember to turn around and don't drown, as we've seen upward to 2 inches in some spots the last hour or so, maybe even a little bit more in the isolated spots that really don't get sewn up here, really don't show up here on this map. So we'll continue to watch here and continue to monitor things as we look across our region. I know watching from South Georgia, we have some strong storms, nothing severe at the moment, but we'll continue to monitor the situation as we get toward Albany, toward Tipton, toward Valdosta here to see if anything else kind of pops on up. I know Gadsden County had some accident here earlier. We were monitoring that situation there with some trees down. We were monitoring the situation around Thomasville. And of course, we're monitoring this flash flooding situation around Jacksonville here. That flash flooding threat, I know, just going to have to continue to track. And I know we're just going to be giving you those latest details. Significant weather advisory now for Baker, Inland, Nassau, Inland, Duval, Union, Bradford, Clay, Southern Ware, and Western Charlton until about 6:30. So there's a potential here of more of this kind of spreading out as we get towards some of the inland counties, as we should start to see some of these temperatures re-energize things if they heat on up. You see 77 toward Keystone right now, but 82 to Lake City. And these areas haven't seen as much activity as other spots like out toward Tallahassee. So we'll have to see exactly how much instability is left over here. As we pop that up, you can see some, not as much, but some. We'll just have to see how things go. Maybe not severe weather, but some strong storms coming on in here later on. So we'll have to, again, continue to track things. I'll be back around 6 o'clock with more information, and I'll have a look at that forecast where we'll kind of overview everything that's happening with that overall scenario. Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here at the top of the hour as we continue to follow the weather situation across the region. We do see that we have some flash flood warnings remaining in effect around Jacksonville. Let's go ahead and pop up the radar scope computer to give you a little bit better perspective on what is happening right now. You see this flash flood warning no longer includes St. Johns County, but still for parts of Duval and some of the worst accident off toward the west. And in fact, we're just going to have to continue monitoring things because we may get a severe thunderstorm warning as we get out toward Baker County pretty soon, because I noticed an increase in the velocity values here over the last few minutes. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about here in just a moment. As you can see some of those redder colors showing up as we're getting toward parts of Baker, parts of Charlton, and western Duval as well. So we'll just have to see what happens here with this scenario. Again, a flash flood warning continuing there for parts of Nassau and Duval. Here as we're looking 1 to about 8:30, this one right here, and then 7:45 off toward the east where the rain rates have lessened, so that's some good news. But we're still going to watch things here as they do evolve on this Tuesday evening with the storminess around. The flash flood threat, according to the Weather Service, is slowly decreasing as the rainfall rate's low across the Jacksonville metro area, but a strong storm is tracking into Baker County, and they're mentioning a gust there 45 to 55 miles an hour possible. Heavy rain and intense lightning through about 7 o'clock tonight. So just want to be cognizant in those areas. And if you're wondering, we're on here at 6, so we're just going to serve as a normal update here for today, just for the fact that we're on all of our platforms at the top of the hour. We'll get into that forecast here in just a moment. But again, just to look at the Jacksonville area Doppler for the time being, we'll continue to monitor what is happening with this action and let you know as alerts are issued here toward this area. Give you those latest details here. So again, you look at the Doppler, you see some of these temperature readings, and these kind of tell the story with what is happening right now. We have 70s in areas like Keystone. We'll have to watch to see if anything evolves down toward the south here, though rain-cooled air should kind of limit that to an extent. And you see some other spots here, though, in South Georgia still in the 90s, not getting as much rain. I know Chief Meteorologist Mike Burris there at WJX, WFOX is just reporting a rain rate there, quite a high number a little while ago in the south side area of Jacksonville. But now he's also reporting information about high total there in toward the Nocatee area of 3.42 inches. So really getting into that rain. Some of that's still falling in some of these different communities. So we'll have to be aware here that for folks to turn around, don't drown. Again, as we get back into where Jacksonville, we're watching southwestern Georgia here as well. You see some strong storms near Camilla, for instance. We're also getting toward Adel here as well. So just kind of have to remember when thunder roars, you want to go indoors. I know 2 homes struck by lightning there as we got out further toward the Panhandle. So something that was definitely impactful for those folks. And just always important to take heed here as the situation does evolve. So just be mindful of what is going on. And since we are on with our normal update, I do want to touch on another topic some of you might have an interest in. And now I'm not too concerned about it right now, but we'll continue to watch it. That's a tropical depression out there now here in the Atlantic Basin. It's that system we were talking about yesterday on all of our different platforms. I'll kind of step out of the way just a little. You can see this is what the 5 o'clock position was, and now I'll step back in to kind of see that track. It does look a little ominous if you're just kind of glancing at it, but most of the models here, and this forecast even has it weakening a little bit as it gets closer there in north of Puerto Rico, may even just disintegrate altogether, and that would be some good news. If it does hold together past right now, seem like that it would show that we'd have more recurvature in those models. That's what they are displaying at the moment. We'll continue to watch here as we look with 35-mile-an-hour winds, that movement west at 16. The pressure pretty high right now, but it did become low enough to find on those infrared satellite images to raise some concern. And now as we get to your forecast, I didn't update this because we're pretty much staying with the same story here. So just kind of reiterating things since we've been in some storm coverage. I would just kind of like to just tell you that we have those rain chances staying high here as we move into Wednesday, into Thursday, into Friday. Those temperatures are about the same as well. Of course, if you get rain around, you're going to cool off. If you don't, you're not. Pretty much is the story. And then as we get the word Tallahassee, Valdosta, pretty much the same story here. Again, if you don't get that rain, it's going to be pretty warm around, as high heat index value as possible. But when you don't have that rain around, or excuse me, when you do have that rain around, you're going to have those storms here in the picture, and that'll be more hazardous there when you have that lightning in maybe your community, something like that, causing issues like what we've heard about today. So no storms, hotter temperature storms, and you have that lightning potential. So we're going to continue to watch things with these forecasts. Let's get back over to the Doppler right now. We'll go over to our GR Earth computer. We'll wrap this up pretty soon if we don't get any new warnings or new information in. But right now I do want to stick with this just for a little bit longer since we do have these flash flood warnings in play over Jacksonville. A flash flood warning here going to 8:30 tonight with the rain still falling there on the west side of Jacksonville, northwest side, some in the downtown, but things not as hazardous now in toward that downtown area. We'll take you out there right now with one of the camera shots, as I do see an area of flood advisory in parts of southwest Georgia, getting some of those higher rain rates up there. But let's pop up the baseball grounds camera right here. You do see some rain around, and again, it could be still slick on the road, so you want to take it easy out there on this Tuesday evening. We'll continue to look at some of these different images here, give you some of these different perspectives. We'll go ahead and zoom on out and see in toward southwest Georgia right now. Some spots here getting upward of an inch or two of rain in just the last hour, and that is why pretty much we have those alerts in play for flood advisories for that minor flooding potential. You have to watch. I know afterward Dawson, we're seeing some rain there. That's caused some issues based on radar indications, and we'll just continue to monitor the situation here and give you those updates as necessary. We're still seeing that rain move toward that McClinney area, those thunderstorms moving on in. Let's get back over to velocity right now, and we'll put that on the radar scope computer so you get a better look here of what is happening with some of these wind values. They're still pretty prominent here, and you'll be able to kind of see what I'm talking about. You see this activity west of Baldwin getting winds there in that 50-mile-an-hour range, almost to severe limits. So I could have some issues along Interstate 10, some of the higher winds we've seen in the Jacksonville area, at least today, on the Doppler radar technology, as these do move closer to McClinney here over the next little bit. So we'll have to watch to see if a warning is required in that area. Again, we're continuing to track things here in the Weather Center. Again, you see that lightning as it does show up in our system. We do have that threat here, so you just want to, again, remember when you hear thunder roar, you want to go indoors, and you just want to be taking those precautions here because lightning can be very dangerous and really is more hazardous at times than what you would get with this damaging winds, large hail, even a tornado. Lightning sometimes here is a bigger deal, especially this time of year, than something like that. So you just have to be careful here. I see a significant weather advisory up in South Georgia for Quitman County, so we could still have some more warnings up that way. And if I don't break in for those, I'll at least post about them on the various platforms, of course, to give you those latest details from the National Weather Service. You see these velocity values here west of Baldwin right now. We're going to continue to track that. You can see that boundary here. We'll have to see exactly what that does across your region over the next little bit. You have to just continue to watch here how that influences the overall scenario. And you can see up in north southeast Georgia, east of Nahunta, around Folkston, Woodbine, Hilliard, getting into some of this. So just kind of stay tuned here. Again, you're seeing what is going on with the action, and we just want people to be mindful. I want to wait another velocity scan or two before I wrap this update up, just because we are continuing to watch things up that way in toward that Duval, Baker, Charlton area. And we continue to watch that flash flooding threat as well. And we'll talk about some national weather real quick here. We've already talked about the hurricane model information in terms of just what they're not really showing too much, but let's go ahead and display some of that right now. We'll move on down here. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about with the official forecast, and then some of our models, they do have it as a lower end tropical storm, but we'll just have to see because they have in some regards turning this or maybe just really, really weak. I mean, we have 18 knots on the winds on this one model as the Axon approaches the Bahamas. Now, you have to also keep in mind if it's that weak, it could go further west, and then we could have something develop right off the coast. But that would be probably a pretty weak system, and that'd be downstream. But you don't want to completely rule anything out in the tropics, especially this year with the favorable conditions overall. But this system just doesn't seem like it would have the favorable conditions at the present time. But we've seen things change really quickly, so just stay tuned. Can't rule anything out. Be prepared. It's hurricane season as we continue to look at our local weather and the storms that are around. There's also storms, I know, as we get to other parts of the country. We had the marginal risk in our neck of the woods here toward Tallahassee today, and that goes all the way to Arkansas, Oklahoma there. And you see a slight risk, though, as we get toward parts of South Dakota, Nebraska. You see a severe thunderstorm warning in play there. We're watching for maybe some isolated tornadic activity later as we get up toward Pierre, Phillip there in the state of South Dakota. So we'll watch that potential, that wind potential here as well. And we'll just, again, keep tabs on everything that's going on across the nation. But as we get back to home, you do have these flash flood warnings in play here for parts of Duval County, and also getting toward Nassau here as well. You see the rain that's fallen over the last hour or so. In terms of temperature, you see things have cooled down in the areas that have seen rain, as you would expect, but other spots still warmer. We'll just have to see how things translate. I'm going to check velocity again, and it looks like things are ramping down a little bit on this, which is a good sign. So we still could get a warning, not out of the question. These winds aren't that much lower, but they're a little bit lower for sure based on velocity information. So that's something that's a positive. As you'll be able to see here, what I'm looking at, you can see the brighter colors indicative of higher winds a moment ago, and now colors here that are not as bright indicative of lesser wind values translating to the surface. So I think we're going to wrap it up. We'll continue to watch here across our whole viewing area. We'll at least post about things. I'm trying not to break in here as much just because as we get later in the summer, things kind of get redundant here, and you're pretty much used to these storms. And then when they're more hazardous, I will break in. But when we're just getting the isolated accident here, maybe a downburst in a more rural area or something that's going to not be impacting very many people, we're just going to kind of save these updates here for stuff that's impacting more people, maybe a little more hazardous. But you still got to be careful when you have a downburst. Just because I'm not on doesn't mean something couldn't be dangerous in your neck of the woods. It probably won't be, but can't rule it out. We've had lightning strikes be fatal in scenarios. We normally have severe weather going on. I know up in north South Georgia, we were watching a lightning strike there earlier this year. Unfortunately, the impact there with that did claim the life of a young child there. So really unfortunate. Broadcast media talking about all the rain here across part of the first coast, and we're going to continue to watch things as the situation does transpire. If I need to be back on, of course I will be, but we're going to go and wrap the update up for now. You saw that forecast, those temperatures here going to be pretty consistent. Those heat index values an issue when you're not getting that rain. As we get up toward areas like Waycross, you're seeing these values mid-90s or so. Even outside of our area, we're getting values even a little bit higher. And toward the western area, Fitzgerald, we're getting a heat index value of 100. So it's just when you don't get that rain around, things are a little warmer, more hazardous. But if you're just inside, you'll probably be okay. Just monitor the weather. But this isn't a hurricane situation. It's just your typical storms. But of course, your typical storms can be hazardous in those select scenarios. For now, meteorologist Casey Cloud, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, if we need to be back on, I will be. But otherwise, have a great night.